and businesses that are owned and controlled, sorry, by those who use their services, and they operate to maximize the benefits of their member owners. And there's actually a lot right in those sentences. In other words, what makes co-ops, why are we talking about co-ops instead of just traditional businesses? The key points is that the owners use the services of the co-op. The co-op is a business, so it must generate enough revenue to cover its cost, um, since it's a business, and it exists to maximize the benefits of its members, not to maximize profits for its owners who may or may not be using services. And these are some points that we're going to be hitting on throughout this presentation today. Co-ops exist across almost all sector. We have some of the most famous ones are like REI, which is a consumer-owned co-op. Ocean Spray is an ag co-op. Ace Hardware. I highlighted in green the co-op models that are most popular, we most see in the ag sector. That's producer purchasing and shared services. But I also just wanted to highlight, we see co-ops in all types of different sectors like credit unions, utilities, worker-owned co-ops. Um, I'm throwing out these terms. There's a lot of overlap on these terms, but just trying to familiarize people with some of the terminology. I did want to as I mentioned, we use co-ops every day, including in Alaska. A popular misconception is that they don't work in Alaska. They actually do, and quite well. Almost 9 in 10 households in Alaska get their power from electric co-ops. Most Alaskans bank with credit unions, which are a type of co-op. Some of you might be familiar with the Copper River salmon. It's known to be quite good. That branding was actually started by a fisherman co-op that now no longer exists. But they were a marketing co-op. The fishermen came together and developed this branding for it. And that was beneficial to both members and non-members. As I mentioned, some types of co-ops are more popular or more present in the ag sector, and I wanted to give some example of these. I'll just admit people. Um, Producer co-ops is exactly what they sound like. They are owned by the producers. These are the member owners are the farmers, and they market and maybe process their goods through the co-op. An example we have in Alaska is Alaska Beauty Peony Co-op in Homer. This is owned by 10 farms, I believe. The co-op owns a pack house where they collect all the peonies, and then they hire staff seasonally to process the peonies, to ship them out, to process orders. And they also developed the Pig Joy brand that Alaska Beauty uses. So that's an example here in Alaska. They've been operating for 10 years now. We see producer co-ops across the United States. As I mentioned earlier, some of the examples that I gave are like Ocean Spray, Treetop, Tillamook, Welch's. All of these are producer co-ops from the farming sector. Another example are purchasing and shared services co-ops. Purchasing co-ops, there's a lot of overlap between these two. Purchasing co-ops tend to just focus on bulk, but it sounds like just bulk buying to get discounts. Shared services co-ops might include purchasing. They might also include admin services like accounting, ordering, HR services. An example that we have here in Alaska is Ace Hardware. I know it's not from the farming world, but it's a very famous one. And they have purchasing as well as branding together. Co-ops, another common misconception is that co-ops fail more often than traditional businesses, and that's untrue. Both at the 5-year, 10-year mark, we see that co-ops outperform traditional businesses. Only half of traditional businesses will make it to 5 years, and only 1/3 will make it to the 10-year mark. Co-ops outperform on both those metrics. These specific numbers that I mentioned here are from a study of co-ops in British Columbia, but studies have been done across Canada, in South America and Europe, and the proportions are relatively the same. The exact number changes, but the numbers stay quite similar. I could not find any data for the United States, which is why I did not bring those numbers here. Um, a big part of why co-ops outperform traditional businesses are the co-op principles that I think of them as best business practices. There's 7 principles, and we'll go through them, and we can talk about, there's a lot to them, so we can talk a lot more about them after this presentation. The first one is voluntary and open membership. That means that No one is obliged to join, but they can join if they want to. It doesn't mean you have to accept everyone. There's definitely some criteria. So, for example, electric co-ops, you have to be within their service area to be able to join. Democratic control. Uh, every member has one vote, elects a board of director. The board of directors sets the policies and so on for the co-op, sets the direction. So not every decision goes back to the membership, but every year the membership can vote and elect a board of directors to represent them. This ensures that the co-op, this member engagement helps ensure that the co-op is providing services that are relevant to its membership, and so they continue using the services of the co-op. Member economic participation, and we see this both in the buy-in. To become part of the co-op, you have to pay a fee, you have to buy a share. And also in the patronage dividend, how much you get back. So if the co-op makes enough to cover its cost and to put some aside, and there's enough, there's some profit to share. It's actually going to go back to its member owners based on how much they use the services. So think about REI. When you go and you purchase, how much your REI dividend is based on how much you spent at REI during the year. And so that's like one of the co-op principles. Each co-op is autonomous, and so that means that they operate independently and to maximize the benefits of their members. This is a key one because co-ops work when they are serving the needs of their members. If they lose that autonomy, uh, there's that disconnect and we lose some of that power of co-ops. Education and training is the fifth principle. This can look both about education about the co-op model. Why is it important to be a member and to be engaged? How do co-ops benefit you? But also what some ag co-ops do in the lower 48. They'll provide education on how to apply fertilizer, how to best apply it, and so on. And so that's just part of the education and training principle. The sixth one, cooperation among co-ops, is a really popular one in the co-op world, and it's just good business, privileging working with other co-ops. Sometimes credit unions might, try and work with local co-ops, try and help them. It's just creating a network of businesses that support each other. The seventh one is care for community, and so giving back to the community, and that can look in that can look like different things. There's an Island Artist Gallery is a co-op in Sitka. How they care for the community is that they stay open year round in downtown Sitka. Many shops in downtown Sitka close in winter when there's no tourists, and so they wanted to make sure that there was something for locals to go to. So that's one example of care for community. It can be giving out scholarships, it can be organizing a fundraiser, it can take very many different ways. Um, these principles are the same principles that co-ops across the world follow. They evolved from the Rochdale principles in England at the end of the 19th century. They're not exactly the same. Like I said, I used the word evolve. Um, but they have been proven to be quite effective. Regularly, there's the ICA, International Cooperative Association, and groups of people get together and redefine these principles and these best practices. But they are used across the world, and co-ops that follow these principles are the ones that outperform the traditional businesses. Um, and so these principles are really core both of co-op development and to co-op when establishing a co-op. So I've given some examples, talked about these principles. Say you want to form a co-op, what does that look like? So you develop, and this is again a very broad overview, but essentially what happens is that you develop the idea, you establish the service. What is the service that the co-op will provide, and what is the service that members are willing to pay for? You gather members. If you don't have anyone who wants to be part of the co-op, you don't have a co-op. And you conduct a feasibility study, and this is a key one, and this is one where we often the co-op formation stops because if it's not feasible, if the co-op cannot sustain itself financially, we don't have a business and we don't have a co-op. Say you do the feasibility study, it all works out, you have a plan, it's viable. You would then incorporate, that's something you do with the state. In Alaska, you just need 3 people to incorporate, and I think it's a $250 fee. And then you create bylaws. Those are the rules that everyone in the co-op abides to. You create a business plan, you obtain capital, so like the financial. You might raise that from your members, you might get a member loan, a commercial loan, and then you launch. Um, this sounds really straightforward. It actually tends to be very circular. There was a reason I used that roadmap there. It can be a very iterative process. You might have a group of people that develop an idea, and then as you're gathering more members, You find that actually the service that people are interested in is slightly different. So then you go back and forth. Then you do the feasibility study. Well, actually, you can't compete with existing businesses for that service, or that model is just not viable. And so then you go back and redevelop the idea and so on. It takes about 1 to 2 years typically to form a co-op because of this process. A big key part of it, the underlying part of it, is also you're building that member engagement in that community. Um, one of the primary reasons when co-ops fall apart, especially in the early stages, is that there was people kind of bypass this whole member engagement community building, and it's probably one of the hardest parts. Another way of looking at this and summarizing some of all the information I've been throwing at you is I found this flow chart. And one way to think about it is, could a co-op work for this project, whatever project it is? Um, is there an economic or community need or lack of service? And if the answer is yes, you move to the next one. Do people want to join? Is there support for this? If the answer is yes, and then we go to, okay, is it financially sustainable? And that means you're not relying on grants or donations. And that is a key misconception, is that oftentimes people think that co-ops are nonprofits, that they rely on subsidies. Um, they're not. They're businesses. They have to be independently financially viable. If you get to this point, and then the next question is, would you follow the 7 co-op principles? And do you have a dedicated group of individuals? Another challenge that we see is that a project might be driven by 1 or 2 members and other people don't want to join. And so it's really key to have that group of individuals so that you can incorporate all of the co-op principles that can help you be a sustainable financial business. If you answer yes to all of these questions, you might have a co-op. Um, if the answer to some of these is no, it doesn't mean that that's not a valuable idea. It just means that maybe the co-op is not the structure you want to do. It might be that you want to form an LLC. It might be a nonprofit. There's many different options. So I gave you a lot of information, was really trying to stay within my time. So that's what I have right now. I can also, if there's any specific questions, I can answer or delve into more topics. Sorry, was someone in the room talking?
Not yet. Is there anyone in the room has a question for Barbara? Anybody online? Please raise your hand if you do.
I think most of the questions on this topic are going to be with the subject of the co-op, not the co-op process itself.
Speak louder, please.
I think most of the questions in this process are going to be due to the subject of the co-op, not the co-op process itself.
Barbara, can you go back to that one screen about 2 screens ago, a little flow chart? Right there. Thank you. And in this case, if we use the slaughterhouse as an example, okay, looking through this little flow chart, you know, we're at number 1. We're number 1. So, you know, is there a need? I think most of us are here because we think so.
For sure.
Okay. Do we have support from future members? Maybe. Okay. That may be a larger group than we have here. It might be smaller. Okay. As things come together, it's likely to get smaller when people realize it. And then we've got a lot of work to do in putting together a business plan, those who are still willing, and go that route. Okay. So I think tonight one of the keys is try to determine who's willing, and then we'll have a follow-up meeting for those who are, and start working on the next steps here, commitments.
I think you'd have to examine step 3 in this particular case before anybody could be willing to say they're willing.
That's why, and those who are maybe willing need to be part of that. I mean, I can create a business plan and bring it here and say, oh, I want in or I don't want in. That doesn't help anybody else unless they're part of building that business.
So is
Yeah.
this, I guess, is this a discussion on whether we should or shouldn't start a co-op? Or is this you guys have decided there will be a co-op and you're just wanting to see who will agree to join a co-op?
This here process tonight is to see if there's interest,
Okay,
and if there's enough interest to work together,
okay.
then move forward on forming a co-op. Okay, I'm not gonna form a co-op on my own. I don't know if anybody here would be willing.
I have some questions.
Okay. We got some questions online. Let's go to AD Jensen.
Well, hello, Director Scoresby, it's Andrew, and Jensen in the governor's office. And I just want to start off, I guess, by saying thank you to Barbara for giving up for donating her time tonight to make this presentation. I found it very informative and helpful. And I'm glad is that Scott in the room with you there? I wasn't sure if Scott Muggeridge was there, but I appreciate.
No, he's online.
Okay, so yeah, no, again, I just want to thank you guys for taking time out of what I know is a very busy time of the year for you all. And so I'd be curious, I talked with both Amy Seitz and Scott Muggeridge about this idea, or trying to help how the governor's office could help support this effort going forward. So I would be curious, since you guys have in the past started down this road, if you've had any conversations with your fellow farmers and ranchers about if this is something that you would like to go on this road, not just to benefit the ranchers and keep the slaughterhouse going as a concern, but the stuff we've talked about with marketing, transportation costs, etc., where cooperatives are a proven model. Just what kind of feedback you're hearing from your farmer and rancher and producer community about how we can move something down the road.
Okay. Any more comments? There was 2 hands raised. Who is the next hand online? Jen Jarvis. Go ahead.
So one of the things is we've talked a lot, but they're really, and I get, we had a short presentation, but there's also a lot of examples of really talking about rancher co-ops out there. So the Country Natural Beef, Dakota Grass-Fed Beef Co-op, Cattle Producers of Washington, which focuses on slaughter processing and marketing, and is Washington raised cattle. So I think looking at that, the agreement, from my understanding, is just even people willing to hear more about examples of the way that things could work. Am I right? And just, am I summarizing that right? That's what we're here. Is it just about, is there interest in just hearing more and then decisions come? I'm sorry, I can't hear anybody if there was an answer.
We are waiting for John to unmute.
Yes, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we lost audio on your side. So that's why the previous speaker kind of didn't know if someone else was talking or answering her question. But John Anderson and Director Scoresby, I guess my question is, and maybe people know more background on what's going on, but I thought the slaughter plant has an owner. I mean, is that now in question? Like it seems like there's a lot of things going on without understanding the background of why all of a sudden there's this conversation of cooperative and even comments you've made and, would I, I'm not going to bring a business plan for, so I guess, can we get some background on what's bringing, like, I know we've talked about this for years and years, but at this point in time, last I knew, there is a sole owner of the meat plant, of the slaughterhouse. So just some clarifications would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if we can get an answer here, Adam. And you wanna say anything?
Yeah, so the plant was purchased, well, the lease option by the plant was done by Ben Adams. He's always wanted from day one to form a co-op. They took over November 1. He is actually now trying to leave the state for personal reasons, and he wants to bring this back up and start this process. And Bryan, Director Scoresby, is reaching out to everybody to find out who wants to participate in that. It is a long process, a lot of things to talk about, what benefits that everybody would like to see out of it. For me, this is a rancher, I have my needs, but there's a lot of options out there. So Ben wanted us to reach back out and find out what, just get feedback on that. So that's why the question is bringing up now is trying to find out what kind of, whether people just buy into Alaska Meats. I do believe it's already set up as a co-op and can facilitate the people just buying into it, or if it needs to be a whole co-op taken starting fresh. There is still a year and a half to roughly a year and a half to set something up to take over that plant. I think that's the beginning of it.
Okay. John, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you. And sorry, I have to wait to get allowed to unmute. So that's why there's a little delay on this side. So.
Okay. Any more questions online? Amy Stites.
Yeah, am I off mute now?
You're off. Yep.
All right. Which I just, maybe a question or something to think about if the process moves forward. Maybe looking at a co-op expanding beyond just the Palmer plant. I know the focus in the past has been just around the Palmer slaughter facility, but maybe now it's time that we look at statewide, whether it's a mobile unit that could travel regionally or smaller units around the state. That might help bring in more producers if we're looking at not just Palmer. And even if we're looking at existing plants, I think a co-op, it would be good to discuss both plant. We have a plant in North Pole that we want to succeed also. So I'm just throwing it out there that through this process, we might want to discuss, is having one plant the goal, or making it easier for producers to get their animals processed. We might be able to bring in more producers if we look at other options.
Okay, thank you very much. Andrew Jensen.
Yeah, thanks, Director. And I would just like to kind of build on what Amy just said, in that I think thinking about this, this is member driven. It's state, it's the producers, the actual. So deciding what the co-op does would really be up to the members. And I agree that it shouldn't be limited to just supporting the Palmer slaughterhouse. I think that marketing, which we've seen from the various task forces, what we've heard recommended in terms of like a something similar to the Seafood Marketing Institute. The Seafood Marketing Institute does get a chunk of state funding, but more than half of their money is producer fees that market Alaska seafood. And so I think there's models for marketing Alaska products, whether it's beef, whether it's pork, whether it's peonies, whether it's carrots or potatoes, etc. So I think marketing is something where that is something where all producers can stand to benefit. And so I think the point of tonight is to start conversations and to see, can you form something that would be beneficial to the producers who are willing to sign up for it and do the work. And so I think that's one thing where the state support, or where our office can help facilitate, is if there is buy-in, right? If the producers want to do this and work together for the common good. Because again, the governor's been interested for transportation in particular. We know transportation is such a high cost for Alaska producers. You're right, Amy. I mean, to have focus on one plant when we're such a big state and we have, protein being produced around, in multiple locations, a cooperative could collectively get together and acquire a mobile unit that the members could use. So I think that, like, what Barbara's here to answer is like, what kind of things? I mean, I don't think there's really any limiting factor when you look at from banks to ice cream that cooperatives do. So I think the only limit is what the members want it to do. So I'm hopeful that this is just an initial conversation, but I just wanted to make sure that I was here as the governor's representative, that we want to help facilitate setting up a system for the farmers and the producers and the ranchers to be successful.
Okay, thank you very much. Andrew, or Barbara, there's a question online in the chat here. Can you answer? Is the first question understanding needs of the rancher and potential members?
Yes, you definitely want to. Thanks for asking that question, Jen. You need to define what needs you're looking at and what services you're looking at provide, because that drives the rest of the conversation. It's really hard. It's impossible otherwise to recruit members if you haven't defined them. But again, going back to the timeline I was giving, where it can take 1 to 2 years, is because those conversations take a while. Like the conversation like tonight, we've already expanded from the Palmer Slaughterhouse to talking about other possibilities. Um, and that's really important. That's part of the process. And then you go, and then once you've found some, you've determined, okay, these are the needs that we have. These are things that we like to try and fix. Then you have to start looking at the economic viability. Is it financially viable? And that's the limiting factor for the co. That's really the ideas on generally the limiting factor is the financial viability.
Right. Thank you very much.
So I will add a little bit what we found since, I've been doing this for quite a while. I've been doing this for quite a while, ranching, but what we found more with the USDA, I love the mobile units, they sound great, but there are no starter in the winter. They just are. So if we're looking for USDA, the plant inspectors, just the process is so much slower. We can do twice as much as custom exempt than the USDA slaughter because you have that inspector going over that. The plant really can handle way more animals than anything else we could even build it for twice the price, to be honest. But where the co-op I think would be a huge benefit is farmers working together. Let's say Kenai, you have a bunch of animals down there. If you have a co-op, there should be a delivery service or a trailer going down there. If you gather up 10 animals, who then farmer as a co-op, or to go to Delta, or to go to Fairbanks, and on the way back pick up at Coffee's place and bring 3 down. That's the part of the co-op part I think it works. It is still centered around, I think, the Palmer plant because of the size and what its capabilities already are. Going with the custom exempt is a totally different animal. You can get away with a lot less, but all the commercial aspects are all the commercial customers like Three Bears, Eva's Foods, Walmart. They don't, they need that stamp. They won't talk to you even with no question about it. And a lot of the smaller retailers, they have to have that as well. Even the smaller butcher shops, they have to start with that stamp, and then they can be retail exempt, but they got to start with that. So I think in the spirit of the co-op, I would like to see farmers working together where we can gather stuff and bring it in. You still have a product, have to have one center located processing facility, whether you're doing produce or meat.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Erica Boughton, I guess would be producer. My question going forward would be, I think the co-op sounds like a great idea. I think there's been a lot of good things presented, and I think there's obviously a lot of people that show interest. My question would be, moving forward, does this co-op and having a USDA slaughterhouse in the valley have to revolve around a 15,000 square foot building that is proven inefficient? It's lost money as far as I can find every single year. It's drained the revolving loan fund. It's drained the private owners who've had it in their possession. So do we have to keep this whale afloat? Or could the co-op honestly be looking at what a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot plant that's built for what the plant's handling right now, maybe has room to grow and is more efficient and cost effective for everyone, a direction that's even possible? Or is the whole point of this conversation, we have to save this whale of a plant that has cost everybody money and has kind of been a proven failure as far as I can find for the last 30 years? That would kind of be my question, because I think it's great. I do think there should be a USDA plant. I do think we should have the ability for farmers to work together and help each other out. But everything I can find in my research is that it's cost the state money, it's cost private individuals money, and it's just been a giant waste of money. So as a potential partner in this co-op, I don't want to see my money going into something that we can prove as a failure. I want to see it be successful. I want to see Alaskan ag be successful. I want to see the farmers and ranchers and our consumers be successful and get what they need. So, but I don't know if I'm jumping ahead in steps, but that's kind of been my concern is, are we insisting that this plant has to stay? Or are we looking at repurposing a smaller building, turning into exactly what everybody needs and saving everybody money in the process? Would be my question.
Barbara, do you want to tackle that or do you want me to?
How about you start, Brian, and then I can hop on afterwards.
Okay. One of the things about working as a co-op is the members get together and they decide what they're going to do. That's part of the development of the business plan.
Okay.
And that may keep this plant afloat and it may not. Okay. I don't think any of us are absolutely it's this plant or die.
Okay.
It's the members getting together and making that decision.
Because I know in the past, it has been this plant has to be the one that stays. And listening to, 10, 15 years ago, that's kind of where people were kind of at, that this plant needed to stay. So I didn't know if that was still kind of the
See, and that's the co-op model is the members decide what the business is, okay? And I think it's wise to consider in that discussion a transportation model addition to it. The secret of this plant here is actually attracting more animals to it. If there was sufficient numbers coming through this plant, it could be wildly successful.
It could, but yet its potential,
Okay.
it could take on 10 to 15% of what the entire state would consume. And I don't even know if that's something that this plant would even try to do.
Yeah, so-
when they're talking, they could do thousands and thousands of animals a year at a plant this size.
Yeah, obviously, we just need more producers making more animals so that we can have more slaughter,
There go.
And this plant was built for a lot higher capacity than what currently is available to even go through it.
100%.
But people have been spending millions of dollars on keeping it afloat, waiting for more producers to show up since 1996. I mean, it's been the same story since '86.
So,
We
You
ain't
know,
dead yet.
I mean, we look at each other, how many of us are growing animals and we want to grow more, okay? And can we recruit more from our friends and neighbors? Get more animals growing, that's the secret, get more animals for this, but that's just gonna be the secret for any business model. I think the key is for a co-op model is to size the plant, be it this one or a different one or a mobile, to meet the needs of the members and the business plan. Okay. And we got to keep an open mind and think a little outside the box instead of, this plant in Palmer, and that's the only thing to consider. No, that's not true.
That was my concern.
Okay, Barbara?
Yes, absolutely. And to reiterate some of what has already been said and what Brian said is this discussion is exactly part of it, is determining the services. And then you go, what's the need? There's bottlenecks. We all know that in ag, in Alaska. but also what is viable. And this is, you have a lot of important information and determining a lot of businesses, when they start operating, they do operate at a loss in the first few years, which is why they need to have some cash flow. Um, but you can't be constantly operating as a loss as a business. And so you need to, that's why that financial sustainability piece is so important. It's one that we often go back to, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Something that I also wanted to talk about. I gave you all the great things about co-ops. There's also some real challenges with co-ops. One of them is everyone agreeing on the services and being willing to pay into them. The other one is that sometimes you all need the services at the same time. That's not inherent to co-ops, that's just one of the challenges. And so making sure that you have the capacity to address all of your member services if you all need them at the same time. Another one is there's a lot of misunderstanding about co-ops. It can be hard for co-ops to get enough funding uh, to fund big capital projects. We see that in the seafood industry a lot. Some co-ops are able to do that, and others really fail. There's a misunderstanding on the type from lenders, from even credit unions, banks, what co-ops are. There's a misunderstanding from the SBA. And so just sometimes co-ops also fall in between there's some regulatory challenges when you're a co-op because of how the membership, every person owns the same share of membership. You get one member, one vote. That can create some challenges in how the regulations are interpreted. And so all of these are, it goes back to you determine the service that is needed. How are you going to provide that? Um, and it might be that a co-op is not the right way. If you all need, help resources at the same time to get the cattle or to do some processing and so on, maybe it doesn't have to be a co-op. Maybe you can just form an LLC and you hire and train, a group of folks who go from farm to farm and they're trained and they're able to do it more efficiently. It doesn't just have to be a co-op. The co-op model can be very powerful. It gives you a framework to work into it, but it's not the only one. And that's part of this discussion of this process and this flow this flow chart we keep going back to.
Hey, Jen Jarvis, go ahead.
Yeah, and I apologize that I didn't introduce myself in the first place. So my name is Jen Jarvis, and I work with Sure Food Solutions, and I'm actually working with the plant currently to answer some of those questions that are being asked. I think that though looking at all options, I think that we have to look at why did we have issues in the plant previously? So there are a lot of different questions, and how does that, and also evaluating the meat system in its entirety. So when you look at that, the cattle have to be fed, someone has to be, at the ranch, someone has to be processing, and it all has to kind of be elevated at the same time. So when we're looking at that and those questions, what are some of the other needs that are being met or can be met in other ways? So, though, yes, a co-op can say, we do not necessarily want to look at the Palmer plant, but we also, when you look at the startup costs of building a facility from the ground up and the cost, is there anything that the current plant is grandfathered in, that there's been changes in regulations or anything like that? I think there's just a lot of pros and cons to that, and doing that actual evaluation and going through that process and really evaluating just where were the opportunities that might have been missed, where was there other support. If there's no cattle, we don't raise we're not able to raise the production in the processing plant. But if there's no processing plant, then why would you have more cattle if the processing becomes so difficulty? So I think it's a matter of, when we're looking at this and considering a co-op as being one of the things, whatever the co-op decides, is that, a rising tide raises all ships. We've got to kind of lift the whole food system, which isn't just the rancher's responsibility, but we have to, as a state, raise the food system as a whole when it comes to our livestock.
Hey, go ahead here, Lloyd.
I'm Laura Stanley from the Alaska State Fair. I don't want to talk on behalf of our livestock board, but I know most of you probably were 4-H or FFA parents, so you know that once a year there's 100 animals that need to be slaughtered. I know from history, just from going to the meetings, that in the past, when this slaughterhouse here in Palmer was not working, the animals had to be transported all the way to North Pole in order to be slaughtered. There was a lot of extra expensive stuff. I'm not sure how the livestock board could help support a co-op, but I can tell you that it's definitely something we will need. We need that USDA approved meat after the fair, when there's 100 animals that need to be slaughtered and over $1 million that was made at the fair for those kids, which become you guys and help support you. So I just wanted to let you know that we're here and we do want to support this somehow. We want to support having a slaughterhouse locally, or the mobile slaughterhouse would be great if it just pulled up to the state fair and took care of all of them.
I have a question. Is it FFA and 4-Hers that have to be
Yeah,
USDA stamped? Oh, I thought it was just the 4-H.
Where the animals are sold to,
right.
but one of our huge buyers,
Three Bears has to because they sell all the meat in their store. And FFA and 4-H do the auction together, so it's not broken down into FFA have this sale and 4-H has this one, it's all together, so it's whoever buys the animal.
Okay, and then they have to go get a stamp. They have.
Yeah, for Three Bears definitely, because like I said, they
Some
sell theirs.
Passed when the plant was shut down.
Yeah,
Or-
no, we did, and it took every dime that we made off of that auction that year. Cause we had to hire a driver and trailer to haul all those animals to North Pole, have it slaughtered, then rent a van to bring it back down. The animal didn't have to have USDA. We rented a refrigerated trailer, had them slaughtered on one of our 4-H members' property, stored in there until it could go to whatever cutter they wanted to send it to. So it was very expensive, and there's no way that 4-H could do that again. It was, I mean, we pulled it off, but that was the first auction that we had made a lot of money on for the first time in a long time, that we brought a lot in.
Let the 21 show them.
Yep.
So that USDA stamp, is it actually going to Three Bears, Walmart, Fred Meyer's? Like, how much is actually going to some of these larger
Three
retailers?
Bears buys a lot. Last year they spent over $25,000.
Okay.
And it all went to their stores. They do not buy any small stock. It's all steers, pigs, sheep, and goats.
And they'd be willing to do
And
more?
they sell it in their store.
Awesome.
So,
Okay.
so yes.
there's like 3 different Three Bears that do it, so
Yeah.
you'll see it in Eagle River.
So with marketing, that could maybe expand. Possibly they would be needing more. What about Walmart, Fred Meyer's, some of these other larger corporations?
Sorry about that.
Because that would be the thing, is if we've got the marketing, we've got the people behind it, then, you know. Mhm.
Not a lot of people that want to pay the last of growing prices. Not consistent enough to build that, but people, so that's why we're short on animals.
Right, but I think that's growing though.
Yeah, I think that's a desire.
There's a consistent place. If it's certain, without certainty, me as a vice producer, I mean, I can't get in my meat into places like, the process around here.
Cause there's
So-
3 other plants in the area, but they aren't USDA.
And right, well, I'm thinking, I'm just taking the USD out of it.
Right.
Most all my stuff is custom exempt, I still can't get into the process, so we're showing processors and USDA, that plant does not have to be just USDA.
Yep.
It can be custom exempt, it can be doing game, it can be doing chickens, it can be doing fish, it can be doing
Yep.
all that stuff, and it needs to be.
Yep.
To be, that's all part of the business model.
Yep.
We're killing chickens tomorrow. We're doing it, be custom exempt. And we can be doing USD by the end of the week if, people want that.
How available is space at the coal plant? If you need animals slaughtered, is it a 6-month wait to get them in, or is there available slots up there?
We'd have to call Jerry and ask him. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, because the other approach for people in the valley would be a transportation co-op.
Right.
If you're doing USDA.
And I looked at doing, and when they went to throw that co-op, I penciled it out, and for me, taking my animals out there, just like you're doing, taking your animals, bring them down. If I could find somebody, I tried to reach out to people in Delta on, if I bring it up there, can I get a backhaul with your stuff coming down? No one wants to work together, so no co-op. And so I would, then I'm doing a trip by myself, so.
And that's where if you had a co-op and you could fill a pot, $5 a mile, then you're only looking at at $1,500 to take a pot load of, if you have a full pot.
Right.
Versus a
But
stock
like,
trailer.
there's definitely interest in moving forward with discussing all this. It'll be, like he said, who's here for the last 4 or 5 meetings as you're hammering out details and getting into the tough stuff.
Yeah,
Correct.
But, I mean, I don't think anybody here doesn't want to see ag in Alaska succeed. It's just how much time and effort do we have to put in when we're already working our butts off, just running our farms and ranches?
And I know,
You know?
I know from what people have seen on Facebook and look at what that plant, I mean, I've heard people saying it can be 700 animals a day, invite you to come over, I'll give you a tour. A lot of that stuff, we can walk through it first, and you'll see what its capabilities are. It's mainly, yes, it could do a lot, but you know, like 20 animals could never go through there a day, just because it's the way it's set up. Those mobile units, you'd be hard pressed to get up and eat through them.
Right,
Yeah.
so you're talking 100 animals a week.
I can
Like,
do,
like-
I'm Wolverine Farm up on Lazy Mountain.
Mhm.
I can do, we did 24 in one day. And that was a full crew, big, huge crew, and without all the USDA
Right.
red tape.
Well,
And
that's
stuff.
the
So,
question
yeah,
is when you're
there's no-
talking about guys who are doing the slaughtering and the butchering, do we even have people like that up here? How hard is it to train someone? I know the plant
Labor
struggled
issue.
with losing its USDA approval a couple times the last year or two due to improper slaughter. Like, is it hard to find people who can do the job? Like, is that part of the conversation? I mean, I know we're probably getting a little into the weeds with some of this, but.
Optics on that plant,
Mhm.
like you know, 1 second, and then you clean up for it,
Okay,
because they have an inspector there that inspects twice a day.
okay,
No other place has that.
right,
There's one person doing all of it, so it's a good thing, but it doesn't mean that they have a problem. It means that it keeps, you throw either meat on
very
the
high
floor,
standard.
very high standard. And that was custom exempt. I kill my own moose, I kill my own animals, but you know, 24, when it's burnout mode. I know, you cannot do that with a USD inspector, because they have, when it goes to the final rail, they're gonna take their 30 minutes, and they're gonna go over there with a fine tooth comb. So 8-hour days divided by 30, that's what you're gonna get.
That's good for us to understand.
So
but
it's
don't
very
worry.
high standards,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing.
So you're talking maybe 100 carcasses, if you're doing 20 a day. if
You
you're
can do
working
that.
your butt off. And that's just one guy doing those. That's multiple. That's what I'm saying, guys, if you're.
But
60.
any of that's cost.
Right.
You don't make. The plant, Chris Miller, he always told me that that was his labor, his slaughter fee was his labor.
Gotcha.
That was it. So it's just to get that meat hung up, aging, and then to a butcher shop. Just get it
The
flowing.
one thing that that plant also offers is the historical inmate program that they have,
Right.
which is a very good program. To training inmates, getting them out, it's still minimum wage. It's pretty unlimited, amount of people. It's hasn't been used as potential, it's increasing now, being been brought back in Palmer.
Mhm.
And some of them are good cutters.
And they're very good.
Please speak up higher so the people online can hear.
With them being paid minimum wage, I know when the report published in 03, they were costing the state around 61,000 a year, even though they were being paid minimum wage. What's the current cost per
I
inmate?
don't think they were getting paid, they were 60 or 2, before when the state had it, I don't think they were getting paid minimum wage, they were still getting the prison 50 cents an hour.
Then it was costing the state 61,000 per inmate in 03. What's the current cost per inmate?
Depending on how many hours.
Yeah.
Minimum wage employee, I don't know.
There's no other associated costs in the plant other than their hourly wage?
Okay. Employee.
Yeah, they're dropped off. I don't think they have it there with them.
I was gonna say,
Okay.
because back in
They're
03,
dropped
they
off.
had guards that were still there, they were doing laundry and food, so that would.
Fair enough.
I don't know where they, what that costs and. Like, you can see.
Well, at that time, they were feeding them at the plant, they were doing laundry at the plant, they had correctional officers at the plant, they were paying transportation to and from the prison. And so that came out to 61,000 per inmate per year at that time. But if it's been restructured,
Okay.
It's costing $12 for donuts.
that's pretty easy.
That was the incentive to get more labor into the plant. Is there any other questions online that we have? Okay, hearing none, there's obviously a lot more discussion to take place. I think one thing here as we kind of close up is let's organize those who are interested into a follow-up meeting and start working on a formation of a business plan. Barbara, we'd love to have you online with us when we do that. And, we can schedule it out, in another 2 or 3 weeks. And for those that are interested in pursuing on the co-op model, then I'd invite you to join us on that next meeting. Okay. And we'd be glad to host it here at the Division of Ag, but it could be anywhere. Is that all right with you, Barbara? You
Yeah,
shake hands?
absolutely. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. That sounds great. And I also, I actually found this conversation was really good tonight, especially for preliminary conversation and a lot of great ideas and a lot of knowledge. And this is really encouraging.
Excellent.
So are you talking about a meeting after the fair week?
That's what I was wondering.
That all the fairs.
Speak up, speak
I
up.
can guarantee you all animals will be done with the fair. That's guaranteed. So,
I'm the one worried about that.
Oxygens.
Right?
This is Glenna Stanley. She runs.
okay. But I working with Jen and stuff after that fair week, I can offer to do a presentation on initial business plan and show where we're at and what our ideas are and see what other ideas we might have.
Yeah, Glenna took over for Jen. We lost Jen.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, right. So you got Jen.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I'll be prepared to bring a presentation
Okay.
on that next meeting.
We'll look at doing that the week after the fair. Do you want to rest a week before we do it the second week after the fair?
The fair ends on the 1st of September.
I know.
So, but there's no talk of this match at all.
Okay, we'll organize another date, everybody, and we'll announce it probably about 10 days, somewhere around the 10th, 10 days after the fair ends. And we'll announce it through the same channels we did this one, and we invite you to share with everybody who is interested. I know 10 days after the fair is right in the middle of hunting season for those who like to go hunting and escape.
We don't get to hunt.
Some of us are in Delta, we've had snow by the fifth.
Some of us wish we could go hunting and camp. All right.
Brian,
Well, thank you all very much. I think
Brian, sorry, I think Jamie had her hand up. I don't know if she had a question, if they had a question.
Jamie? Yes. Go ahead.
I was slow to the gun and Bryan already finished the meeting. So my question was basically answered, but thank you very much.
Okay, well, we'll announce the meeting here when we can, and we appreciate all of you for coming. We can look at each other for another hour, but I don't think that's going to be all that accomplished. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. We'll post this video. We've recorded it. We'll post it online so you can watch it again.
Oh, you're Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for attending online. I'm going to end the meeting.